I want to talk to you about a common pattern I see. Usually it's females more than males. Usually they present with symptoms of complaining of chronic hip and or low back pain. And usually these are people, when I have them do a forward bend, they have so much mobility, flexion mobility in their hip joints that they can bend to the floor and touch the floor pretty much palms flat on the floor, and they have very little flexion in their lumbar spine or anywhere in their spine in general. So these people with complaints of hip pain and low back pain, usually they don't have any flexion in their spine. They're more prone or they have a tendency to get more into extension. So when they're loaded under stress or they need to find position stability, their spine goes more into extension and their rib cage goes into more retraction and extends and have an outflare of the ribs in the front. So they lock everything down. Problem or issue is that if the lumbar spine is going into extension, it's going to promote the pelvis to go into forward rotation or anterior pelvic rotation. So if the pelvis does that, and then they have all their movement when they bend coming from the hip joints, the hip is going to flex and it's going to compress more into a pelvis that isn't moving as much because the pelvis is locked more into anterior pelvic rotation, which is which is synonymous almost with lumbar extension, lumbar spine extension. So over time what happens is that hip joint becomes a lot of wear and tear because it's just jamming in there every time they bend, and they're doing all this yoga and they're doing all these activities, deep squats, whatever it may be, and then they wonder why they have chronic hip pain. Now the back pain is usually because the back pain is limited in flexion. So it's a limited stabilizing strategy where they have to go into spinal extension with rib cage retraction. So these people, it's very simple to treat because all you have to do is teach them how to stabilize or get their pelvis in a more posterior rotated position and to get the rib cage more protracted, actually retracted back more, sorry. They're protracted when they're like this, outflare, retracted when they come in. Basically you have to teach them how to use their abdominal obliques with their upper hamstrings.